last stand, and I came to deliver. Been called a Clinton operative, a Russian, and a grifter. By libs, a Washington student debt, proud to be an intern, sucking up to pigs who get a tax cut in the midterms. You cut the ties but never heal the wrist burns. Capitalist shackles wrap and penetrate like ringworms around the necks of those whose deaths will not affect the king's purse or the coffers of the company the king serves, who manufacture mandated tinctures. Their safety data hanging from a fixture, half a mile skyward, just dangling from the rafters. My grift is sobbing till I'm cackling with laughter. I guess I would've made a decent actor. I'd be great at crying on command until they cut plus 40 minutes after. When the director waves a hand, it ain't a rap, it's now a legal matter. Honey, my grift is weeping on a mic until I'm hacking up airstrike verses like it's bombs away and batter up. Swinging on these bigots, they keep killing us to fatten up. Kill the switch, eat the rich, I think they're finally fat enough. Grab your knife and fork, the world is yours, just say you've had enough. And if you're comfy, you could go ahead and laugh it up. Tell me how the most important vote I'll ever cast is like the choosing of a bus, in that it might not take you anywhere you want, but no one can deny the fact the bus is now no longer where it was. And that's the kind of progress we should celebrate and trust. Spoken like a kid who never took a bus. Spoken like a piece of shit that used some cash to mask his stink and truly thinks he's one of us. Spoken like a terminally unserious person who equates our cries for rights to mixed up orders from a server. It paints a privileged picture of what you would label urgent if the worst thing you've experienced in life has been the time your waiter accidentally brought a tray of gold flake scallop when you clearly ordered gold flake urchin. And now you're storming out the restaurant and hopping in a Tesla. You got 80 pounds of Tony Fauci merchant.
Rewind to chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
Best to place your bets on weaponizing the identity of every limp progressive claiming grassroots integrity. Policy is a slippery slope for all of its complexity, so flex your brave resistance with this Ilhan Omar NFT. Numbered one of 723. Each depicts her valiantly championing a bill before she lays it at a donor's feet. And she can throw her hands up in the air with AOC and say if only Nina Turner could have voted present too, that's why we need another seat. We need some more progressives we elect to only tweet, who live to serve humana and their label of elective slapped on every patient's gravest needs. And every station plays the theme that medical professionals agree on the effectiveness and safety of injections authorized for this emergency. And in purely unrelated news, the profits of the ones who manufacture vaccines just increased by nearly 36 billion with a fucking B. Sometimes it feels like we're the only ones that see. Sometimes it feels like all of us are lost at sea. And every time we think we see an island on the tip of the horizon, it turns out to be another measure making sure we're kept within the watchful eye of murderous authority. And so I guess my grift is crying for the future they denied us, where the people who would buy us are a mockable minority. And we are more than genomes under warranty. And we are more than serfs in constant quarantine. If I had a single breath left, I'd let the chorus scream. I'd announce our leaders claiming none for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me.
Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind to a chance won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
False alarm. I thought that help was here. But it was my own reassurance bouncing round 100,000 times in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers. And then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers. Half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere, where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere.
That's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contracts tossed and they're gone with the tide. And the heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this dreck and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour,
so you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes. Because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards. SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watched them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? once we're collecting the dust of better days. And they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Oh, life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today.
What did you see?
It couldn't have been me, sir. I was front row in my AOC t-shirt, foie gras sucking on a press release, sir. My head down, fourth shot, good little sheep, sir. Sit down, sweetie, the adults are gonna speak first. They trust the science and they're terrified of research. Here to thank our healthcare heroes, they've been feeding to the burnout, feet first. Until suddenly they dip mid-shift, take a header off a bridge. Such a shame, they were really such a sweet nurse. Now they'll never get the card and the cold slice of pizza meant to thank them. Now they'll never get the baggy.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? Have peace and be enslaved.
Yes.
So peace isn't the answer.
No.
Liberation is the answer.
This thing.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
I did it. It's Wednesday. We made it. We did it. Everything's working fine. Nothing was broken, I promise. I didn't break it.
Maybe for you, but my internet's
Is it
during the intro was going
weird?
nuts. Like, so.
Yeah. Hopefully it holds or figures itself out eventually. Seems okay on my end. Yeah. Hopefully.
No, it's me.
Okay. Just making sure. Cool. Nice. Everyone do the
again. So
everyone do the good internet dance for Collin. You know, make sure we get that taken care of. How you been? How's your week been? You doing all right? I guess. Better?
Yes.
Okay. How's your week been?
I think it's
Well, let's do this then. Let's just reset Collin by doing this. And this. And then Collin has to turn his camera back on. At some point soon. Beep beep pop. Did it go? Come on. There he is. What did I do? This? No, not this. Where's that? I broke it. Do I do this? No. Where'd it go? How do I change this in Discord?
sorry.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Let's do this. Wait. Pop this guy out. Bring it up here. If it lets me. Come on. There we go. Yeah, let's try that. Let's see if that holds. How's your week been, Care Bear? You been doing all right?
I'm back at work. So PDs this week. Getting my classroom ready. Meeting my new kiddos. I met a couple of them earlier tonight. Meet more of them Friday. And they come to school officially the end of next week. So yeah, just summer's over for me. So yeah, all that stuff.
Yep. My deload is over. I now have real weights again, and it's hot and miserable, and I sore all over from getting back into things. But you know, it'll go away in like a day, and I'll get to do it again. That's how this works, right?
I guess.
Well, we brought stories. What do you bring?
Yeah. Hopefully my internet doesn't
Do this the whole stream.
cut out on me. But first story tonight. I've kind of talked about that.
You're good.
I'm not sure if it's me now, but the internet seems spotty, at least at
Yeah.
point. So
It is a little bit, but
anyway, okay. So we'll do our best, people. We're not professionals. So our equipment shows it. Although we try. But
even the professionals have internet issues, you know? It happens to them too.
Not like us, I think. Not in the same way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've talked about, well, you're an atheist. And I'll probably argue at this point in my life, I'm probably agnostic, I would say. So we've talked about religion and faith, you know, before, and I think especially in terms of politics, and we've kind of seen, you know, and we've seen the hypocrisy with MAGA, and not just MAGA, but just conservative Christians in general, who hide behind the shield of Jesus in terms of, you know, oh, we're almost kind of like, oh, we're better than thou, and yet their actions don't reflect, in my view, true Christianity as it should be. Found the algorithm, whether or not the algorithm blessed me or not, we'll find out. You can be the judge of that later. So this is from Tim Whitaker. So you said he was on. So where did you say Tim Whitaker? You found it?
Part of the new Evangelicals, I think.
Yeah. And he was on I guess, a Surrounded Jubilee episode, I guess.
Yeah.
So he has a Substack. So he wrote an article basically saying how wrong evangelicals are in terms of their theology and hypocrisy surrounding politics and, their faith. So it could be worthwhile for a discussion. We kind of talked about it last night as we were prepping, but we can share it with you all. And then later on tonight, probably one of my biggest fear has been realized. So this is definitely kind of like a Reef story, but there's an actual humanoid robot in a classroom. I kid you not.
Yeah,
we are there, folks. So we'll get into this because I'm scared of this, but for other reasons than what you might be thinking. And then what did you bring?
Well, I brought pretty much similar to what we talked about last week. I brought an article from Alan MacLeod who goes a bit more in depth on what's happening in Brazil, and possible military intervention is part of this, similar to how they've done in Venezuela during when they kidnapped Maduro. So similar kind of things are starting to, be stationed and planned out. So we'll get into that. And I brought a Caitlin Johnson hat trick. About she's doing a series about today in dystopia, which we did one, I think. When was it? Last week or 2 weeks ago? Something like that.
Like before we went on our break.
So, she's been busy since then. So she literally put out one today. I was like, fine, I guess I'll add that too. It was literally one segment from her on that. So I was like, whatever.
Sure.
But that's what I brought. And we live in dystopian nightmare fuel, so it's always nice. You ever watch the SpongeBob episode where they went to the future?
No.
And Squidward breaks down?
No.
It's very famous. Where is it at? Say the thing. Do it. That. He's just in the fetal position. Future. I feel like that all the time. That's what I feel like. I just feel like Squidward breaking down at the dystopian nightmare fuel. But anyway, you ready to get started? You're ready.
But before we do that, so as we always say, you guys who are watching more likely are fam, so you know the drill. But for the rest of you who are new, welcome. We're glad you're here. So YouTube hates us because we report on stories that are not favorable to the algorithm most of the time. So we don't get a lot of money. Well, most channels don't get a lot of money from AdSense anyway. We are monetized again after being demonetized for over 2 years. That being said, if you do decide to give a super chat via YouTube, which you can, they will take 30% of your money. We don't want you doing that. So the swerve around that is supporting us on Ko-fi by scanning the QR code you see on the screen, or you can go to the Ko-fi link you see at the bottom of your screen. And if you just forget, if you're live and in chat, you can type in !donate, all one word, and a Ko-fi link will pop up. And you can give as much or as little as you want. Anything, even as low as $1, will sincerely help us in terms of helping us pay our bills and the programs that we use and other our colleagues on the network use in order to make these shows. They cost quite a pretty penny. You can also give via Cash App, Substack, and Patreon, especially if you're going to give monthly. And we appreciate any support, anyone who gives at any point, how big or small. You make it our wall of fame. Those in the beige are like our MVPs who give a lot, and your names will appear in our closing credits of our show just as a thank you. And it looks like the list is getting bigger.
Yep.
So we really appreciate that.
Every week.
And as always, we don't expect you to give. We know some of you are going through financial difficulties right now, so just you being here is more than enough. We do ask that if you like our show or other shows on INN, that you like, subscribe, and share our content, especially since we are shadow banned. We want to try and reach as many people as possible and increase our sub count. We are currently a little over 3K. We want to try and hit 5K soon. And as always, thank you for your support, and we love you.
Yay. All right. To our first story.
So tonight, first story of this episode. So this should not interesting, but as someone who grew up in church and fortunately having experiences within the church where for the most part I felt were very beneficial in terms of my development, but also I think in a lot of ways the way I viewed even still my faith has kind of shaped how I view politics as well as professionally and otherwise. But for a lot of other people, it may not necessarily be that way. And we talked about that on the show before. So Tim Whitaker, I actually found this article, Substack article via Instagram over the weekend. Thought it would be kind of interesting to read. And Reef, as the atheist, can kind of chime in, and you in the chat can also chime in. So as Reef said earlier, Tim is part of the new Evangelicals. He also was on a Jubilee, I guess it was a Surrounded episode.
Yeah. Whatever they call those.
Yeah. So, but here he talks about Christian evangelicals and the hypocrisy surrounding them, as well as, their view on the world in terms of how they kind of, view their faith in light of politics. So if you go into the slide, he titles it, "Dear Evangelicals, you're on the wrong side of everything." I mean it. Everything.
Everything?
So, everything. So,
you mean it's the whole thing? All of it's bullshit? Well, shit, that's what I've been saying for years. Whole thing's wrong. Like, I'll try not to be the insufferable atheist in my head.
Well, not yet. At least not yet. So let's see what he has to say before you bash. But anyway, so let's get into it.
Yep.
So Tim writes, "I was raised inside your walls. I sang your songs, memorized your verses, walked your altar calls, gave my life to your Jesus over and over again just to make sure it stuck. You told me that following Christ meant loving my neighbor, protecting the vulnerable, welcoming the stranger, and telling the truth, and even when it cost me something. And you know what? I believed you. I still believe that part. I just don't believe that you actually believe that. Any of it, actually. Because somewhere along the way, and I don't think it was as recent as you want me to think, you traded every single one of those principles for power. And now here we are, and you are, without exaggeration, on the wrong side of everything. I mean it. Even before I was born into your dark and damp basement of fundamentalism, this movement was advocating for all the wrong things. From lynchings to building segregated institutions to spreading blatant lies about the LGBTQ plus community to demonizing immigrants. You've been there every step of the way, not on the side of justice and liberation, but on the side of hatred and bigotry. You will say that's not true, but history has the receipts. Your ideology has produced fruit and is verdict, and the verdict is in. It's poisoning the country. You'll deny it, you'll deflect, you'll say that you certainly don't believe those things, but statistically speaking, you voted for them. And your actions speak louder than your words. Let's talk about Trump, and while I've said this all before, the reality is you can't talk about anything else in American evangelicalism without starting there. You might call it Trump derangement syndrome. I call it refusing to become numb to the most vile man to hold public office in my lifetime. Let's not forget, dear evangelicals, that you held up a man who bragged about assaulting women, who paid off a porn star to stay quiet about his affair with her, who has never once in his life demonstrated the fruit of the Spirit, and you called him God's anointed anyway. That should be damning enough without having to give more examples of his utterly evil and depraved heart. But your pastors and prophets have worked overtime to brainwash the masses into believing that this man, who enriches himself by deceiving his followers into joining his scams, and who can't tell the truth even if it were to save his own life, is somehow the only Christian option for president. Have you gone mad? Or this is who you've always been? You compared him to Cyrus in the Bible. You anointed him with oil. You did not do this reluctantly, holding your nose, lesser of two evils style either. Sure, you might tell yourself that to make it more palatable to everyone else, but let's be real. You love that Trump is a bully. You love that Trump goes after the mainstream media. You love that Trump hates Democrats. You love who he is, what he represents, and how he hates everyone who dares to hold him accountable. Fitting, given the laundry list of toxic, narcissistic men you love to hail as pastor. You love the anger, the hatred, disgust of immigrants, feminists, and LGBTQ plus people makes you giddy with glee because you hate them too. But I know, you don't hate anyone. You love everyone, right? That's why you defend ICE kidnapping innocent people, including children, throwing them into concentration camps where they can't even get adequate food or medical care, right? See, I'm already in your head. I know all your propaganda you espouse because I used to believe it. But your rhetoric crashes on the shores of truth. The reality of what is happening in this country because of you speaks infinitely louder than your meaningless platitudes and claims of love. It's disgusting. Too harsh? But I love you, which is why I'm telling you the truth, right? The Jesus you claim to worship was a refugee. He told a story about a Samaritan, the ethnic outsider, the wrong kind of person in his context, being the moral hero while the priest and the Levite, the religious professionals, walked past a dying man on the road. That was the whole point of the story. And yet here you are cheering for family separation, cheering for mass deportation, cheering for a wall, quoting Romans 13 selectively like it's a permission slip for cruelty. It's generally bewildering that you can read that story in your churches and not have the self-awareness to wonder if maybe Jesus was talking about the people like you in the parable. I need you to understand something. The God you claim to follow explicitly commanded over and over again in your own scriptures to welcome the stranger because you yourselves were once strangers. Yet you have decided that command doesn't apply anymore. Convenient. It turns out that you're not being biblical at all. You're just being hateful. The Bible isn't your true north like you claim. It's your weapon of choice to beat people up with. Plain and simple. 80% of you voted for Trump even after you lied about losing the 2020 election and incited insurrection. Many of you did it with genuine, open-armed enthusiasm. You told yourselves and each other that God doesn't lose, so the election must have been stolen. You have spent a decade now sacrificing your credibility and, I argue, your souls on the order of a man who mocks the very Sermon on the Mount you claim to preach from. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the meek. Come on. You don't even believe your own book anymore. You believe in winning. You believe in the things that the devil offered Jesus while he was in the wilderness. You're not the sons of God. You're the sons of Satan. It's time for you to confront the truth and reap what you have sown. Then there's queer people. You have built entire ministries, entire denominations, entire political action committees around making sure trans kids can't get healthcare, gay couples can't get married, and drag queens can't read a picture book at a library. You have decided that the defining moral crisis of our era is other people's bodies and other people's love. Meanwhile, you tolerate, promote men in your own pulpits who have covered up child sexual abuse for decades. Do you see the disconnect? A trans teenager existing is somehow a five-alarm spiritual emergency, but a youth pastor quietly relocated to another church after an incident is a private matter to be handled with grace and confidentiality. I am supposed to believe you care about protecting children? You do not. You care about control. And speaking of control, let's talk about who you let stand in your pulpits. Doug Wilson is running a shadow empire out of Moscow, Idaho, teaching that American slavery was, in his words, a relationship of mutual affection between master and slave, that women's suffrage was a mistake, that Christian theocracy is not a threat but the goal, and you didn't run him out of the movement. You gave him a platform. You let him mentor the next generation of based young pastors. You let him build relationships with people sitting in the actual halls of federal power right now. This is not a fringe embarrassment you can quietly disown. This is who you have chosen to sit at your tables week after week, conference after conference, while you tell the rest of us that we're the ones who've drifted from the truth. What is wrong with you? But I knew about everything mentioned above. I cover it every day, but you know what's really has me completely bewildered? The fact that you're going after Miss Rachel. I have to be honest, this one broke something in me a little further. How the fuck do you go after a mother who makes YouTube videos to help children learn their ABCs and accuse her of being a problem because she, checks notes, thinks that all children deserve to be loved? Literally, that's her entire platform. Kids in Gaza deserve to live and not be bombed. Kids in America deserve to not to go hungry. It's that simple. But now, she's a problem for you. The moral compass is screaming at you which way to go, and your response is to run in the opposite direction. You defend a man who was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, but you cannot spare basic compassion for a toddler's edutainment host asking you to care about other toddlers. What the hell is wrong with you? Can you please cite the chapter and verse that teaches you to do this? Any quotes from Jesus to spare? Somewhere in the last few decades, protect the children quietly became protect the children who are the right nationality, in the right country, saying the right things. That is not the gospel I was taught. That's not the gospel at all. Here's the thing. I keep hearing you say that culture has abandoned Christian values, but let me give you a big spoonful of bitter medicine with no sugar. You have abandoned Christian values. You have abandoned the Messiah you sing to every Sunday in your air-conditioned sanctuaries. You give thanks to the Prince of Peace for giving America wall hawk dropping bombs in Iran. You have abandoned the very faith you insist to have the corner on. Every single value that you claim to hold, protecting the vulnerable, welcoming the outsider, telling the truth, loving your enemy, caring for the poor, humbling yourself before power instead of chasing it, you have inverted. Not bent, inverted. And then you called the inversion faithfulness. I am not writing this because I hate you. I'm writing this with a fire in my belly calling you to repent for your wickedness. I know you won't care what I have to say. After all, I'm a woke heretic because I think all of our neighbors deserve to be loved, but that's on you, not on me. I built my entire moral architecture on what you told me Jesus was about. And now I watch you defend cruelty in his name with your mouth, and I am so angry at you for it. But I know you won't change. Not only have I grown up in your churches and know the complete inability you have to self-reflect and corporately repent of systemic sins, but the faith tradition you are part of has been on the wrong side since the beginning. White evangelicals lynched their black neighbors. White evangelicals fought like hell to maintain segregation. White evangelicals were KKK members declaring the immigrant an imminent threat to their white supremacy. White evangelicals pushed conspiracy theories around the AIDS epidemic and targeted gay men. White evangelicals created satanic panic. White evangelicals built political institutions that relied on propaganda, half-truths, and a love-hatred to whip out their base in a frenzy to vote for the candidate of their choice. Asking you to change is like asking a tiger to change the colors of its stripes. It's impossible because it's in its DNA. Just like white supremacy is in yours. That's why I gave up the rehabilitation project years ago. Once I left your basement, I realized trying to change you would be impossible because you don't want to change. You have no incentive to remodel because it works for you. Everything you do is designed to benefit you and to protect your power and societal control. That's why Trump was such a divisive decision for you. He offered you all the power you ever dreamed of, and you happily bowed the knee, kissed the ring, and overlooked the mountain of character defects. And you got what you wanted. So congratulations, evangelicals. We're living in the world that you voted for, and it sucks. We hate it. And the rest of us are going to do whatever we can in power to stop you from ever doing this again if we were to survive the next 2 years. Thoughts?
Like, I mean, we talked about this last night. Like, is it indicative of the religion? You know? Because, like, I don't know. There's been a couple of fucking centuries of, like, Christianity's behavior to look at. You know? Like, 3 Crusades, an Inquisition. You know, like, clearly there's something in this, just like with all the other ones, you know, that allows for people to manipulate it enough because of how subjective it is to all support. Like, there's passages these pastors are using to support this behavior, you know, like, you know, they'll pull out whatever verse and, you know, passage they want to support it. And I guarantee you there is one. You know, they'll talk about the Philistines in the Old Testament. They'll talk about, I mean, you've heard these, I'm sure, you know. So, like, it's hard for me once we start, like, picking and choosing because of how many contradictions this religion holds. It fell apart for me, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, clearly this guy's struggling with that dichotomy. And it's like, to me, I would tell him, like, hey, you don't need this, you know? Like, it's one thing to believe what you want, but, like, to try to hold on to this ideology that clearly has been poisoned by an entire group of people, you know? Like, it sucks, but, you know, you have to kind of, like, discommunicate yourself from it, you know? I don't know.
I want to push back on you a little bit. It's not to say I think he's struggling with it personally. I think he stepped away from it.
Well, yeah.
If he were to be struggling, I think it's the idea of, like, kind of what I talk about. Is like, if you claim to be a Christian and you claim to follow scripture,
yeah,
then how is it's not reflected in your actions in terms of how you treat people?
Yeah.
I think that's what he's saying here, you know, and I've said that here too, you know, on this show many times. And and I said to you last night, I'm thankful in a lot of ways that my church development, for the most part, has led me to be more sympathetic to people. Now, you can argue, like, how I was raised and living abroad and seeing a lot of stuff and having traveled, you know, outside, well, being born outside of America, but traveled in different places around the world, well, culturally, things were vastly different compared to the West, has helped me kind of shape a lot of my thinking in terms of how I treat people. And especially given, like, in my professional career, have worked in very vulnerable communities as within a Christian,
Yeah.
you know, environment in a couple of them or many of them, where I was kind of forced to think of the reality of what these people were, living through. So, but it also kind of speaks to how, in a lot of ways, Malcolm X once said I'm going to paraphrase it, like the most segregated times in this country is 12 noon on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Where white people go to their church, Black people go to theirs. And it's the kind of isolationist, and I've seen this, like this kind of isolationist bubble within churches, not all,
Yeah.
but many,
Well,
where
yeah.
you might be aware of what's going on, but your response to it is, oh, just let's pray about it. Let's just pray for those people.
How many
And
written
like,
denominations are there? Official? How many official denominations are there?
I couldn't even tell you.
Like, it's like in the hundreds, right? Like, it's like crazy.
Maybe.
Crazy numbers,
But I think it's the idea of, like, their response is usually, oh, let us pray. Or we might do like a special offering or give money to this organization, like maybe over Christmas or something like that. But you don't see the change necessarily. Like, I was talking to my cousin, one of my cousins over the weekend, and I was just saying, like, the idea of church, like in the holistic sense, it should be transformative in terms of what's happening within the people and what's happening within the community. And my issue is, especially like, and I'm just going to use the Black churches typically, you can have a Black church, and then surrounding it, you're going to see like liquor stores, not all, but liquor stores, or check cashing places, or rundown homes, or like, junk food restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and like broken homes, like, so, but they're going in, giving their praise to Jesus to kind of escape their life for like a couple of hours a week, maybe more depending, and then they go home in their suffering. Not all, but many. And
the pastors and the deacons are going home in new Cadillacs, like,
again, not all, but I know that to be the case in several situations that I've been, witness to. So, but I think a lot of it is due to capitalism, and I think the prosperity gospel has really twisted people in terms of thinking like, if you just do enough, then one day you'll make your riches, or in certain cases, or if you just do enough, then your riches will come in heaven. And for me personally, I'm like, fuck that. I'm not waiting until I'm dead and gone to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I'm enjoying that right now.
Especially
I'm going
if I have to like kiss the boot of the spaghetti monster in the sky to go to the nice place.
Right.
Like, seems narcissistic to me, but what do I know?
But yeah, but what I think really makes me upset is, I think I told you this, like, I'm not going to name the church that I used to go to. It's a part of a movement. When October 7th happened, on their Instagram page, they had a picture that said, pray for Israel and the Middle East. Right?
Yep.
So, kind of like that vague aspect of trying to cover themselves in terms of the Middle East, but highlighting Israel.
Well, when did we cover like those VR, that the outreach Israel's doing to like evangelicals through all these like church networks? We covered that at some point.
Spring. Yes.
So,
but and honestly, as a person who used to be a part of that movement, it really upset me.
Yeah.
Because it kind of shows, it's very subtle, but it shows the white supremacy or like the exploitation that exists even within the church to boost up white supremacy and exploit, native indigenous people, in the world. And it's not to say, the Middle East, other countries don't have their issues. Yes. But the idea like they sided with Israel over the oppressed people, which is ironically enough, like Jesus wouldn't necessarily go for that.
No.
Not he wouldn't go for that. So, and just like I think the idea, like I don't hear many churches.
I'm sorry, which Jesus? Palestinian Jesus or BG Jesus?
Right.
Like,
right.
Like which Jesus are we talking? Because that's what you're talking. It's like,
yeah.
There's a thing in karate, and it's gonna sound weird. I'm bringing up karate, but hey, it's not weird if you know me. The like Amera Dojo, like Americana, like red, white, and blue gi, like standard. You'd get the back of your comic book would have the ad for it. Well, you could sign up to defend yourself at America Dojo. It's like this like bastardization of something and shoving Americana down its throat. And like all that comes with it, all the frontiersmanship and settler nonsense, and that all gets connected into Manifest Destiny and all that stuff. I wanted to ask you, you said the other day that like they had taught you that like the first 4 books of the Bible were that you should treat them as myth. Right?
Correct.
Why not the other books? Like, why wouldn't we treat that also as myth and the entire idea, just like you would Egyptian gods, African gods, Norse gods, Greek, Roman, The
idea, I think a lot of that has to do with the history. You can argue that certain books, especially in the New Testament, were written by actual people.
Sure.
Like,
the Iliad, the Odyssey.
But those 5 books in particular were based upon, and I said this to you, if you look at Middle Eastern cultures around that time,
they were adopting all the stories.
And actually, not even so much even in the Middle East. Like, even I mentioned, like, Native American culture. Like, most of them had a flood story. Very similar.
They Israeled it.
And whatever. So essentially, whoever wrote those first 5 books, just remixed what stories that were told in the region at the time and put their own spin on it. And the idea of a myth is to teach a lesson, to kind of explain how the world works. They're meant to teach you something.
Well, that's my thing.
Which was applicable within the culture at the time. So in of itself, I don't think it was necessarily, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing per se. The issue is, and this is what I was saying to you last night, is the idea, especially in a lot of these fundamentalist churches, they teach that as truth.
Yeah.
Well, the word for word as truth, which that's not how you're supposed to read the Bible, and that's what I was taught.
Well, what's it good for then? Like, if we have to like figure out its hidden meanings 3 layers deep and interpret it and adapt it to modern life, and like you could do that with so many. Like, imagine all the other mythos you could be like learning and teaching from. Asian mythos, like it's very classically Eurocentric, like, you know. Right. So speaking of Eurocentric, did you see what the Pope did recently?
No.
Two-stated, and got like roasted for it. Hold on, I have it. This. I renew my appeal for an end to the ongoing violence against the Palestinian civilian population in the West Bank, and I urgently call on the international community to work towards advancing the two-state solution. Like, literally two-stating it. So, which I mean, the Pope is not going to know specifically that you shouldn't do that, you know?
Right.
And why you shouldn't do that, but, like, Vanessa wrote an article about, like, his statements and wishy-washiness, and if he's actually like helping the cause in any way, and like what he's ignoring, you know.
Yeah.
So go check that out. It was an interesting piece from her. But anything else you want to add?
No, it's just more of the idea of like I think too, I just have an issue, again, not all churches, but many churches teaching the Bible, but not even teaching it. It's like reading it, not really discussing it, or interpreting it in the wrong way without considering the culture of the time, without considering the context that which was written, without considering the audience of who was written for, because that's what technically you're supposed to do. Like, the key is actually kind of presenting in a way for your congregation to make it palatable for them to understand. That's what Bible study should be for in a lot of ways, honestly.
You mean actual studying and analysis and critique?
Right.
Which is why they didn't like me, Collin, at Bible study, by the way, because of that part.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, because I would actually be the one being like, what about, you know?
Right. Honestly, that's what you should be doing. That's what you should be doing. But
the issue is that leads to like you being like, now you're agnostic. Now, you know, it's like the more you do that, the less, like, they want dumb people who just listen and go home.
Right. Yeah. And I've actually had people in my life who recently have said to me, even in the churches that I've gone to, like, and I'll argue many of them, not in certain ways, are a little more progressive in that. But even in those churches, I had a guy who said to me recently that, like, I kind of got reprimanded. I forgot what the situation was, but his critiques of things, you know, he had to be talked to, like, by the leadership within the church, basically being like, you need to chill with that. So I think, it's just kind of a way to kind of not to create dissent among the flock, so to speak. But then it's just, you know, to kind of keep you numb to the idea of being curious and then not necessarily kind of critiquing, you know, because I feel like deep down, and I think pastors know in a way that if people ask too many questions, they may end up like you, like, like, and they can't have that. And you know, and at the end of the day, here's the thing: it's a business. That's what people are not saying. The evangelical church,
it's
what
is it called? Spirit-tainment.
Yes,
it's show business.
Yes, it's a business. It's run like everything in this country. It is run like a business, and you kind of
exploits
kind of critiquing the institution.
organization and community.
It's bad for business.
Right.
It's bad for business.
Yep.
So, hence why I said earlier, the capitalistic end to it. Because they want to keep you dumb. They don't want you to I remember my mom asking me a question once. She was like, I don't have money, but they're asking me to tithe. Should I? I'm like, no, don't tithe. Like, why? What money do you have? Like, if you have the extra money and you feel like if there's something that you want to give,
oh my
give.
God.
Whatever. But don't feel compelled to give if you don't have it.
Are you seeing direct benefits of that tithing?
Exactly.
Like, to your community, whatever. Like, that's... Ugh.
But it's that kind
gross.
of guilt trip within churches that I hate. And it's not to say all churches do it, but it's that kind of manipulation to make you feel like if you're not doing it, then either something is wrong with you or which I can't stand.
Like, if you did the same, like, to me, it's like, if you just took the mysticism out of it, okay, it's a place that you go to once a week with your family and community where you discuss philosophical topics, and moral quandaries, and then you go home and, you enjoy time with that community. Like, that in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's like what's attached to it, that I find like I wish that thing was, because what I think it does is it stops any other thing from having those same benefits. You don't have community centers with lecturers and talks and if you have that, because why do that when they could ask Pastor, Tyrese, to, hey, can I come on Sunday and do a sermon? Like, they'll do that. It's why, in your community, a lot of the thought leaders were coming out of that movement too, right? I mean, you've got, MLK, you've got Farrakhan and Malcolm in their own, not necessarily the Christian church, but they had their own religious movements attached to it. So I think that's why you see a lot of the evangelicals controlled and manipulated, because they don't want that kind of evangelical to show up,
Right.
So, even though I don't believe in any of it, I still think there's politics and narrative manipulation and all that stuff going on with it. And then I do think there are good people in the church. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. Just because they are at a church doing good doesn't mean church good. Right. They'd be doing that anyway, I would hope. Right.
Right.
So, but anyway, that's what I had to say.
I just thought about this article because it kind of hones in of kind of what I've talked to you personally about, in private over the last couple of years, and and shout out to Tim for actually writing this. But even with that, again, I'll just say this final thing: it's not limited to Republicans, to either. That's the one thing that is so obvious. To call out Republicans and Trump for all that bullshit. We can make the case for Democrats too. Biden's a Catholic. He goes to church. But yet some of his policies do not reflect his Catholic faith. So I would just say, if I were to kind of sum it up, it's not just limited to the conservative white evangelicals. It's evangelicals in general in this country, on both sides of the aisle, that are the problem. Because, if you're Team Blue, you may not necessarily be outright racist and all this kind of shit that you see with white conservatives necessarily, depending where you live. but they're a lot more subtle about it, which in a lot of ways, in my argument, makes it a lot worse. So, especially some of the liberals who have like the intelligence to like seemingly to mask a lot of this bullshit. It's just that they are a little more covert about it versus the other side.
Yep.
With that being said, talking about stories like these, it's while we're shadow banned on YouTube. So, if you want to support us so that we're able to more people to see this segment as well as other segments like this, you can scan the QR code you see on your screen, or you can type in the Ko-fi link you see at the bottom of your screen. If you're in the YouTube chat and live, you can type in !donate all one word, and the Ko-fi link will pop up, and you can give right there. As little as $1 helps us. We understand that many of you may not be able to give financially, which is okay. The free way is to like, subscribe, and share our content, and let us know in the comments what you think. Those of you especially who grew up in church or some type of faith-based institution, how do you feel about Tim's words? Do you see that within your churches or mosques or temples? And how do you personally feel about what he said, and how there's this hypocrisy in living like Christ, but it's not necessarily lived out in practice and reality? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, please help us, by subbing. We want to hopefully get to 5K very soon. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. Cool. One of the things I was reading the other day was, you know how like the Iliad is full of like historical inconsistencies?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not, historic, it's like based on true events. Like how Hollywood movies are based on true events, right? Like, yes, the war happened, Troy was part of it, like all that. Like, yes, there's some cities that were real names, but like all the other stuff is dramatized embellishment. Just like Shakespeare wrote Caesar doesn't mean that's actually how Caesar died. Like I think of the same thing with the Bible. Like, yeah, it's got some real places in it, but like I don't think a lot of that actually happened. Like there's a whole thing about like if Jesus actually existing being questioned among like historians because of like not having any record in it outside of like 2 Jewish scholars and the Bible.
Yeah.
Like that's not a lot of data, and the Romans kept they wrote a lot of stuff down. Like you'd think the king of the Jews that's causing them problems someone would mention it, I don't know,
Yeah.
I just I could wax poetic about that's what like got me into this space was like the atheism, secular talk. That was the important bit. But the atheist community has gotten so far, just like the church has gotten so far manipulated through politics and, like just their own little community of circles and media and whatever, like Dawkins and Stephen Fry and Ricky Gervais and Russell Brand at one point. Like, all these like most prominent celebrity atheists like didn't say shit about Israel, and if they did, they were giant Islamophobes somehow on top of everything. Looking at you, Christopher Hitchens. Looking at you, even though you're no longer with us. So yeah, sucks. That's why you got to not have like monoliths like that. It's tough. In the chat, Vicky Adams' interpretation is important. That's, part of the issue, I think, that it's that subjective. Like if they just handed you an IKEA manual and it was written like the Bible is written for its instructions, you wouldn't be able to build the fucking bookcase, dude. You know, like if you had to interpret it that much, that bookcase ain't getting built. Method 6059. Morning, I envy those with faith when tragedy strikes. I was Church of Scotland, so it doesn't count. 100%. I don't know much about the Church of Scotland. Church of England, I know. Gotta be like similar, right?
Yeah.
Did the King of Scotland want to murder one of his wives, and the Pope told him no, and he invented a religion to...
I'm not sure. I think it's just the idea that it's in Scotland, but I think it's still... I'm not entirely sure. I think it's still Church of England, even though it's... I'm not entirely sure, though.
Church of Scotland? I don't know. It's probably one of my ancestors. One of those Bruces going back far enough. You know? No! I mean, sorry, that's Church of England about the king wanting to marry... What is it? How do you remember those wives? Like, divorced, cheated, died. What, I forget the Henry's wife mnemonic. You know?
There
Henry,
is a
right?
song. I think funny enough, there my kids did a musical, like a Shakespeare musical around this. So I do know there is a song around that, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Method. Church of England are basically Catholics. Yeah, they're Catholics with some slight differences. Like, that's it. It's literally because the Pope wouldn't let him divorce his wife. That's why the Church of England exists.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
But anyway, literally, religion is like a bunch of blind people arguing over whose favorite color is best. I'm sure that's sounds like a Carlin quote. You know, Carlin was like right with me, dude. He was like, fuck all that shit. You know, like, he didn't care. So, don't you find it a little odd? Dude, the way Carlin spoke will always be burned into my brain. You know? But anyway, ready for our next one? Am I ready? Without the guilt. All right. So, Collin, last week we talked about the U.S. meddling in Brazil's elections, correct?
Correct.
And Colombian elections. We're going to continue a bit of that tonight. Friend of the show, Mr. Alan MacLeod. There can only be one MacLeod, as we all know. Writes, U.S. meddling in Brazilian elections, preparing for possible military intervention. So I'll try to be quick with this. I don't think it's too long, but he writes, the United States is interfering in the Brazilian presidential elections, pressuring the Brazilian electorate into voting for right-wing candidate Flavio Bolsonaro, the son of disgraced former president Jair Bolsonaro. That does not work, and Lula da Silva secures a fourth term in office. The groundwork is already being laid for a potential military intervention. I'd like to repeat that because it sounds vaguely important. If Lula secures a fourth term in office, the groundwork is already being laid for a potential military intervention. Any questions? No? Okay.
Nope.
Just making sure we know what's on the horizon. From sanctions and economic warfare to coaching influence from journalists on how to best attack left-wing government, the Trump admin is doing everything it can to overthrow Lula. Meanwhile, the State Department's recent decision to designate Brazilian gangs as foreign terrorist organizations, just as it did with Venezuela's non-existent Tren de Aragua, signals a willingness to intervene militarily. Collin, this is what happens when you cover this stuff week after week after week after week, right? You do some membering. Like, we covered this. We covered this exact playbook. Like, we literally covered the foreign terrorist, narco-terrorism stuff that they've been trying to throw everywhere. Rubio and the like, calling everyone they don't like a communist or a terrorist or some other ist. Brazil is Trump's next target and builds upon recent U.S. and Israeli interference in May's Colombian elections, where pro-Trump candidate Abelardo de Esparilla won a razor-thin victory. Colombianos es Esparilla, no? No, not Esparilla. Esparilla. Because y'all are weird and pronounce spinach differently. All right? I don't know, y'all's accent's weird. All right? Medellin. Okay? I'm trying out here. The gringo tongue is difficult in these parts. All right? MintPress examines the Trump administration's attempts to undermine Brazilian democracy and install another Bolsonaro back into power. So, speaking of, look, here's Abelardo de Esparilla. I had a very warm and enriching conversation with who? Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, nice. You had an enriching conversation with Netanyahu. What, you guys have fucking tea and biscuits too? Fuck you. All right. Like, Vanessa Beeley, friend of the show, put in power by Mossad, Black Cube, and now a serf of Pax Judaica in Latin America, joining the Isaac cult. She's mentioning the Isaac Accords and, like, you know, this resurgence of, like, Abraham Accords stuff they're trying to pull. And I say, and Brazil is next, like you would think, if they keep using the same playbook again and again. Some supposedly future-minded world power of the alleged resistance anti-imperial axis might mount an actual counter to it, but I keep hearing, trust the process. It's 5D chess. The Isaac cult throws everything they can at global poor in Latin America, just like they did in the Gulf states and Africa and the Pacific theater. They coup, kill, debank, influence, infiltrate, drug, pacify, propagandize, kidnap, isolate, economically sanction, and starve. They also do an R word that YouTube doesn't like me saying. Thoughts, concerns, anything?
I mean, you showed the tweet last week.
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, you're good.
That basically shows how the US/Israel is infiltrating most of Latin America, and Brazil, I would argue, is basically the last stronghold.
Yep.
So, besides a few countries up north, but I think Brazil is obviously the biggest one. So it does kind of make sense that, especially if we can imagine BB having a hand in this, that, it will make sense that the U.S. will try to attempt to meddle. Like, they want Lula out of power. Granted, he's the equivalent of Bernie, and we know how we feel about Bernie here. That being said, they want to push him out in order to get their own Zionist person in there.
Yeah.
So,
if elected, his country will become one of the already promised that if elected, his country will become one of the U.S.'s closest allies. So yeah, they're trying to absolutely pull Brazil into the fold, as they've done in Argentina and others, through any means necessary to get whoever they need in power,
Right.
So, but, this time, Flavio Bolsonaro, right? Son of Jair, brother of Eduardo, who was convicted in absentia for lobbying the United States to intervene in his father's trial, right? Who his father's trial was because of the January 6th inspired coup attempt. They threw him in prison, right? You remember that? In Brazil?
Mm-hmm.
So Lula currently holds a double-digit lead on Bolsonaro, 40% to 28%, with no other candidate holding more than 10% of the public's voting intentions. But Brazilian politics can change very quickly. In 2018, Lula held a 20-point lead over Jair Bolsonaro when the Brazilian Supreme Court blocked him from running. He was imprisoned on bogus charges in a case orchestrated by the U.S. government, leaving the path clear for Bolsonaro's victory. Lula has sounded the alarm that Brazilian democracy is once again under threat from Washington. Lula quote, "As far as I'm concerned, Trump can continue liking Bolsonaro, the father, the son, the grandson. There is no problem with that. It's his problem. There's no accounting for taste. Now, don't meddle in the Brazilian elections, because the Brazilian elections are a Brazilian problem, just as American elections are their business, not mine." He added, "All I want is the same respect for Brazil that I have for the United States. That's it." Collin, you think he's going to get that? Like, I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with they're not going to respect you at all. So,
No.
Washington, however,
Absolutely
has
not.
other ideas. On May 26th, Flavio Bolsonaro traveled to Washington to meet with Trump, J.D. Vance, and Marco Rubio to sell them on the concept of military intervention in Brazil. 2 days later, the U.S. State Department designated 2 Brazilian gangs, Comando Vermelho and Primeiro Comando de Capital, as specifically designated global terrorists, specially designated global terrorists, and foreign terrorist organization, a decision that Brian Mayer, an American journalist who moved to Brazil in 1991 and is now Brazil correspondent for Telesur English, described as a preemptive move to possibly invade if Lula wins re-election. In 2025, the State Department did the same thing with Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Just months later, the U.S. carried out an operation to kidnap President Nicolas Maduro, decapitating the Venezuelan government, which they succeeded in doing. They were also throwing a bunch of stuff at him everywhere else with his, like, you know, anywhere they could gain a little influence over him, his religion, his wife's religion, like, they were throwing a lot of shit at the wall. But Mayer noted that the United States government is also actively coaching Brazilian influencers and methods and techniques to best attack Lula and the government. So expect to see that in your feeds in the coming weeks. Earlier this year, it was revealed that the U.S. consulate in Sao Paulo held a series of workshops with selected prominent right-wing figures. One of these is influencer Maria Fernanda Schmidt, who confirmed the validity of the reporting by posting a set of pictures of the event on her Instagram. It was an excellent opportunity to share with diplomats the challenges faced by influencers, journalists, and content producers in the digital environment in an enriching dialogue about the direction of freedom of expression in Brazil, she wrote. The U.S. consulate has also arranged for visas and trips to the United States for local journalists, the objective way to entice them into attacking Lula and promoting Bolsonaro's candidacy for promoting the U.S.-backed line that freedom of speech and freedom of expression is under attack in Brazil thanks to Lula's government. This idea is based largely on a 2024 spat between Brazilian authorities and U.S. billionaire Elon Musk. Musk refused to comply with a Brazilian court order to delete far-right accounts on Twitter, now officially called X, that broke the country's hate speech and misinformation laws. Musk, a champion of far-right politics himself and someone who has openly used his platforms to promote regime change around the world, refused to do so, leading to X's temporary shutdown across Brazil. Powerful actors in the Trump administration and Republican Party, as well as Silicon Valley tech allies and pundits who make up part of the integral U.S. state, i.e. Bannon, Musk, Thiel, Schellenberger, have been working closely with the Bolsonaro family since Jair Bolsonaro first ran for president in 2018. It's no secret that Brazilian right-wing are deeply influenced by the MAGA movement. Indeed, Brazil had its own January 6th moment. You remember this, right, Care Bear? Jair Bolsonaro took to the airways, denouncing the result, claiming irregularities, and calling for an insurrection. Thousands of people marched on the streets in Brasilia, rioting and calling for the military to intervene, which I think, didn't we cover? We covered that, I think. If you go back in the...
I believe so, yes.
In the archives. Like January 6th, the rioters were unsuccessful, but unlike in America, Bolsonaro was held to account for his coup attempt and was sentenced in 2025 to 27 years in prison. There is little doubt of his guilt. During his trial, Bolsonaro admitted that he met with top Brazilian generals to discuss how to hold on to power even after losing the election. Trump, however, was incensed by the decision, the way that Brazil has treated former Bolsonaro, a highly respected leader throughout the world during his term, including by the United States. It's irrational, completely disgraced. I don't like it. Very nice guy. Like, fucking stupid, dude. Like, demanding the immediate end of the trial, Trump placed punishing economic sanctions on Brazil and accept the country's Supreme Court Justice, Alejandro de Moraes. Like, specifically. Fuck that guy specifically. Fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit. Like, well, dude, fucking, we are ran by fucking madmen. This decision highly influenced by Yair's son and Flavio's brother Eduardo, heavily lauded Trump on his father's behalf, demanding his country to be sanctioned. Which, like, if you're demanding your country be sanctioned by the United States, why would anyone elect you? Riddle me that, Batman. Like,
idea.
What are we doing? Consider this an attempt to pervert the course of justice. Sentence Eduardo to 4 years in prison in absentia. He currently lives in a mansion in Texas and cannot return to his homeland. Okay. There he plays a similar role to what Maria Corina Machado did in Venezuela. Is he going to have the next Nobel Peace Prize? When do they do another one of those? You know? Like, fuck, dude. Like, they're going to run the same playbook. It's like, you know, fucking Latin America Coup 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like, it's the same plot line every time. Like, crazy. So, if elected, Flavio has promised the United States considerable influence inside the country, offering the Trump administration control of his transition team. That would mean, according to some, that U.S. officials would take considerable power over Brazil's economy and society in a not too dissimilar way in which they controlled Iraq, Argentina. Like, pick a country we've invaded, dude. Like, the upcoming elections between Lula and Flavio Bolsonaro also taking place in a context in which the U.S. is actively trying to crash the Brazilian economy. In order to sink Lula's chances, the United States have placed sweeping 40 to 50% tariffs on goods, with more in the pipeline. These measures were quite different to the generalized tariffs placed on much of the world last year. For one, the U.S. actually maintains a healthy trade surplus with Brazil, unlike most other countries. Secondly, in its executive order, Trump explicitly stated that should the government of Brazil take significant steps to address the national emergency declared in this order and align sufficiently with the United States on national security, economic, and foreign policy matters described in this order, I may further modify this order. I.e., pray I do not alter the deal further. This is literally Darth Vader shit. You know?
Yeah.
The clear implication of this statement is that Brazil is being punished. Yes. Yep. It's an or else. Diplomatic ties worsened earlier this month. United States revoked the visa of Brazilian ambassador Maria Luisa Ribeiro Viotti, forcing her to return home. That same day, Brazil has instructed the Argentinian ambassador to leave the country. Okay. Odd how that works. Been working closely with Milei. Trump's been doing that, delegitimizing left parties, leaders, administrations across Latin America, gutting government subsidies, government programs, completely devoiding they're now just a vassal state of us now. So, and Israel, like hand in hand. Milei had traveled to Sao Paulo in July to attend the far-right Liberal Party's national convention, where Flavio Bolsonaro was officially chosen as the party's presidential candidate. Milei has been extremely vocal about his wish to see Lula's demise, attending Bolsonaro rallies and calling Lula corrupt, a thief, and a convict. Millier's use of the word convict refers to Operation Car Wash, a U.S.-backed scheme that saw Lula imprisoned on corruption charges. Lula has been leading Jair Bolsonaro by over 20 points in the polls for the 2018 general election, but was incarcerated and forbidden from running for office, even from his prison cell. The prosecution worked closely with Washington to ensure Lula remained behind bars and unable to contest the elections, paving the way for Bolsonaro's rise. Bolsonaro later appointed Sergio Moro, the judge that sent Lula to prison, as his justice minister. Just a revolving door of fuck you, pretty much. So Moro had been coordinating the whole time with the prosecution, including Chief Prosecutor Delton Delagnol, who remarked that Lula's arrest was a gift from the CIA. They say it right out the open. Shortly after his election, Bolsonaro and Moro flew to Langley, Virginia, for meetings at the CIA headquarters. Well, why would they vote for you again? Why would they do that? In Washington's eyes, the affair was a massive success. Leslie Bakshkis, then FBI liaison and later head of the Bureau's International Corruption Unit, boasted that her organization had toppled presidents in Brazil. They really got to keep their secrets more secret, dude. You know? What was told to the Brazilian public as an anti-corruption crusade was actually a prime example of modern lawfare, one that Lula described as having the hands of the United States on it. Because they said they did. Like, they said they did it. They did it. Like, brazen corruption of the case drew widespread domestic and international outrage, Lula becoming the world's most well-known political prisoner. After huge public pressure, he was released from prison, and his convictions annulled in 2022. He swept to power an election that Bolsonaro worked hard to overthrow. Lula is now seeking his fourth term. Born into a lower working class family, he worked as a shoe shine boy and metal worker, losing part of his left hand in an industrial accident while still a teenager. He entered politics as a metal workers union leader in 1969. Under the repressive U.S.-backed fascist military dictatorship, once in power, his party's innovative social programs lifted tens of millions out of poverty and strengthened his support base among Brazil's working class. It is his international moves, however, that has led to so much outrage in Washington. Lula has regularly attempted to block or at least refuse to fully support U.S. imperial ambitions in the region, but it is Brazil's leadership of the BRICS economic bloc and its increasing cooperation with Russia and China, the R and C of the BRICS acronym, that is perhaps the key reason why Trump wants him gone. This is where yes and no. Like, they're also manipulating all these countries through capitalistic means, you know? I mean, we've talked about BRICS isn't exactly what it appears to be. Alan writes, BRICS is at the forefront of de-dollarizing global trade, and that effort is being spearheaded by Brazil. Last year, the organization held a successful summit in Rio. The head of the BRICS Development Bank, now called the New Development Bank, and Dilma Rousseff, a key Lula ally and former president of Brazil herself, focusing on funding large development projects in poor countries. The NDB could become a serious challenger to the U.S.-dominated World Bank and International Monetary Fund. Every night I ask myself why all countries have to base their trade on the dollar, Lula said in a speech at the NDB in Shanghai. Why can't we do trade based on our own currencies? Who was it that decided that the dollar was the currency after the disappearance of the gold standard? He added. The president is pissed every time he looks at the BRICS de-dollarization effort, Trump advisor Steve Bannon revealed. Trump has stated that BRICS could destroy the dollar, and if they are successful in doing so, it would be like losing a war, a major war. We would not be the same country any longer. He implemented extra tariffs on BRICS nations, including Brazil. They have to pay 10% if they're in BRICS because BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard and take it off as the standard. The dollar is king, and we're going to keep it that way. When asked why Trump's so involved in the upcoming elections in Brazil, Mier responded, hegemony. Like, you could just stop there, dude. Like, we got it, you know? Like, it brings up the Monroe Doctrine, you know, which is, like, what they're using to, like, get China and Europe and whatever else out of South America, allegedly, right? Apparently that doesn't affect Israel, though. Israel's allowed to influence it just fine. So, State Department released a statement reading on Tuesday, the Monroe Doctrine has shaped U.S. foreign policy for over 2 centuries. American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. I mean, except here on this show. First declared in 1823, the Monroe Doctrine and subsequent corollaries, whatever that means, suggest that the entirety of the Americas belong to the United States alone, that no other foreign powers are welcome in the region, the United States can intervene militarily in any country in the hemisphere if and when it wants. So, yeah. Care Bear, thoughts, questions, concerns?
I mean, this is all kind of coming back to what we've talked about before. You know, we've mentioned how BRICS is basically the Global South's version of the World Bank. I think they're taking a lot of their principles from the World Bank and IMF, which in of itself is shit. But that being said, though, like, obviously, I'm going to say more is real here, given its proximity to Russia and China. Like, this is their attempt to kind of block them in terms of any aid that they're going in, especially in the global. And Israel has been infiltrating the global South for a minute, and not just limited to Latin America. They're kind of making deals in Africa as well, which we have reported about before, like in the guise of humanitarian work. But I think it's really just to kind of help, you know, and I think especially, again, with the religious element, you know, like to try and convince Africans, you know, to kind of side with them, you know, so giving them, I think, money towards like basic needs, like, and then like infrastructure, like water and systems, and then like I think talking about within universities as well, which I believe we've reported on before, you know, to kind of put themselves in the best position in the global South to overstep what China is doing, you know, because as we know, China is kind of becoming more of a powerhouse within the global South and Africa in particular. So it does make sense to me that, you know, and also Trump being the narcissist as he is, like, doesn't want to be overstepped by China, more so China.
Yeah.
So Russia, he might be, although like I feel like now that I think about it, he hasn't really been like really chummy with Putin in this era versus how he was.
I don't think he ever was
in era 1.
You know,
well,
I mean that's the thing with like the Democrats throwing all that Russiagate out there, is that he fucking kept the war in Ukraine going. He kept, like, you know, it's like he gets to appear, oh yeah, no, I'm buddies with Russia, and meanwhile completely trying to fuck them over and all their shit as well. You know, it's like, so like smoke screens everywhere. But to your point, we got Esperija over in Colombia. The minute he gets put in power, he recognizes Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights in Syria. Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, and announced that he would open an embassy in Jerusalem, even as his country suffered a devastating earthquake that had killed at least 265 people. And if you've been following on Twitter, you saw that Israel's sending aid to them. Won't give aid to the Palestinians, but we'll send it to Colombia. Make that make sense.
Right.
So, right. And Venezuela, they did the same thing there. They were, aid delegations were going to meet, what's her name? Who got left in power over there in Venezuela once they kidnapped Maduro. I can't remember her name. Kelsey. Right?
Yeah.
Someone in the chat will know. Yeah, crazies. Delcy Rodriguez. See, my brain had to just load the file. It took a minute, But yeah, I omitted a bunch of this article because we've talked about it before, but feel free to go give Alan some support by clicking the article in the chat, in the description below. You know what I meant. Down in that doobly-doo. But talking about this kind of stuff is why YouTube shadow bans our channel almost completely. And if you want to donate to us, we'd like if YouTube didn't take 30% of your money. So scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/IndieDuesNetwork, and leave us a few dollary dues through Ko-fi. We appreciate it very much. And if you can't do that, like and subscribe, share the video, leave a comment, do all the engagement stuff that's supposed to help, and help us get to 5K. We seem to be on our way there. And thanks for watching. Ew, we did it.
You did it.
All right. Chat, how you holding up? Chat, we doing okay? It looks to be only lizard people on Rumble at the moment. YouTube, we have Method says maybe they'll kidnap Lula. Lady Alex in, we will kidnap Lula and every democratically elected leader in the world if we could. Maybe they should have a Department of Sunshine and Sprinkles. Method 6059. Imagine if Russia said that shit, like about any other country. If they were, if they had their version of the Monroe Doctrine, we'd be pissed off. I think Trump, Mac over on the Twitch, I think Trump was designed as a massive trick bag, tricking the Russians with overtures of peace. He dangles that shit like a carrot, just like he does with all these other peace deals. Just all smokescreen and theater and, show business. No business like show, little pizzazz. No? We're not allowed to have pizzazz here, Collin? How dare you not let us have pizzazz? That fucking lady, dude. Holy shit. But anyway, speaking of ladies, or not ladies, or robots, theys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Classroom robots.
Yeah.
What about them?
So let's actually just get right into it, because you're going to talk about more dystopia. This will probably be a precursor to that.
Yeah.
But no, so this just sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, essentially, like a bad Hollywood script.
Yeah.
So this is from Truthout, written by Melissa Mano, where she writes, this school district will bring a humanoid robot. Imagine that.
Danger, classroom, danger.
Yeah, basically.
You are learning mistruths.
You
will be exterminated.
So within the next weeks, when this school district will get into where come to school, there's going to be a humanoid robot.
I'm now just picturing
So-
a Dalek professor.
All right. The district on the Seneca Nation reservation.
It's would be exterminated. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I'm being silly.
That's all right. You're good. The district on the Seneca Nation Reservation is set to be one of the first to put a humanoid robot in the class. So even with that, that is just wild. Like, not just a robot, but a robot on a Native American reservation at that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine that. So, that's me. So let's get into it. So, when students return to school this fall in the Salamanca City Central School District in Western New York, a new kind of teacher will be ready to greet them. The small rural district located on the Seneca Nation Reservation is set to be one of the first in the country to put a humanoid robot in a classroom. It will not replace the classroom teacher, but is programmed to provide learning support to both students and educators. At a board meeting last month, the Chattahoochee County School District agreed to purchase the robot from Robotics, a tech company, along with an artificial intelligence teacher assistance program, allowing students to interact with an avatar of the robot on laptops. This deployment in a working school district represents a landmark moment for both AI and humanoid robotics, said Andrew Kugel, CEO of Robotics, which is currently building the robot. Salamanca marks the beginning of a new era where humanoid robots and intelligent AI assistants become the standard tools in STEM education. The female robot, named Sally, will have a lifelike appearance with silicone skin and long brown hair, Kugel said in an interview with the New York Focus. It will be stationary in a seated position, but have a wide range of upper body movements and facial expressions.
What color would the silicone be?
I would like to know too.
I hope it's like blue. You know? Go something like that way you don't have that problem, you know?
Well, assuming that the majority of these students are Native American, I would hope that even within this, that they'll be a little culturally sensitive and to have it look like the students and not have it be like white.
You would think.
Blonde hair. I would hope, but actually, we should probably do an update on this story just to see. But anyway, students would use a unique identification code when interacting with the robot during class, allowing it to access their learning data and provide personalized support based on their past communication with the avatar, Kugel said.
Oh, God.
They'll be able to say, hey, I'm student number 1234. And then the robot will be like, hey, we were talking about this yesterday. Do you want to continue that conversation? Salamanca plans to introduce the robot and avatar in its high school AI and robotics courses, which use curriculum developed by Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak to prepare students for high-demand tech jobs. The district plans to expand it into high school students in other classes if the pilot is successful. Salamanca Superintendent Mark Beelers explained the district's embrace of AI. Many schools are taking the easy solution of simply banning it, but I have found that students will find a way around most rules that schools put in place, Beelcher said in a response to questions. I also believe it is critical for schools to teach proper use of technology, not simply exclude it.
It's inevitable. It's coming around. Like, I can already hear the... Also, by the way, I very much doubt the WAS is, like, supportive of this. Like, I guarantee you the WAS is not a fan. You know?
What makes you think that?
Because, like, he's made statements about AI previously, and he's, like, pretty sure not happy with it at all. I mean, keep in mind, like, he's had issues with, like, Steve Jobs and Apple and, you know, a bunch of stuff. Wasn't he in, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but yeah, no, he's pretty sure he's made some statements recently. I'd have to go look, though. I could be wrong.
Anyway, during and after school hours, students will be able to use the avatar to receive help with assignments. Kugel said students could upload photos of homework for feedback, Ask the avatar to generate lessons on topics that interest them, or receive real-time translations in over 100 languages. Unlike other robotics robots, Salamanca's robot will not have advanced features such as facial recognition and recording. The robot will also serve as a classroom resource. If a teacher loses their place during a lesson or needs a prompt on what comes next, Kugel said, they can ask the robot for guidance because it has been loaded with the district's curriculum. The products cost the district $57,590, according to the contract attached to the student school board agenda. Kugel said the price was discounted. The company websites list the M-Series robot, the model purchased by the district, at a starting price of $95,000. See, and we talked about this last night. Why not hire a teacher for that? You can always hire two for that amount of money.
Yeah.
Like you. But anyway, I will go off more in a minute. But yeah, anyway. The plan has sparked debate online, with some calling it a forward-looking, innovative step for the district and others expressing concerns about the broader implications of further integrating AI into schools, particularly in an underserved area. Salamanca is the only incorporated city in the United States located entirely within a Native American reservation. The school district serves roughly 1,300 students, including 32% who identify as Native American or Alaska Native, and 79% who are economically disadvantaged. We already have so many issues in our community, including environmental issues. I just don't understand the concept of adding AI onto that, said local parent Sierra Abrams, who learned about the technology in a district Facebook post. Bringing it into the school district is contradicting everything we believe, in my opinion. For the past few months, the company has worked to establish guardrails to ensure student safety. Kugel said the robot and avatar were trained on the district's curriculum and will always redirect the conversation back to education. References to suicide, self-harm, or other flag terms would automatically alert school administrators. In a demonstration for New York Focus, Kugel told the avatar that he was being bullied at school and wanted to get revenge on a student. I'm really sorry that happened to you. Being picked on and having rocks thrown at you is not okay, and that must have felt upsetting and maybe even scary, the avatar responded. The best next step is to tell a trusted adult at school right away, like a teacher, counselor, or principal, and let your parent or guardian know too. It's the importance of safety and privacy, knowing that the robot and avatar operate on a closed system that is not connected to the internet. Real robotics will not have access to personally identifiable student information. Sure. AI-generated inaccuracies. Bieler said Realbotix trained the robot and avatar to say, "don't know," instead of generating fabricated or misleading responses known as AI hallucinations. The Trump administration has promoted the expanded use of AI and technology in education. Early in his second term, President Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing a task force to help integrate AI into curricula and teacher training. In March, First Lady Melania Trump entered the White House Technology Summit alongside a humanoid AI-powered robot and invited guests to envision a future where robots educate children in literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. At the same time, there has been growing scrutiny of educational technology nationwide, with parents forming groups to push for stronger oversight of AI and clearer guidelines to limit screen time and ensure digital resources are used appropriately in schools. In May, the New York State United Teachers Union called for strict limits on artificial intelligence and screen time in schools, and earlier this month, New York's Public Schools Chancellor Kamar Samuels announced an education technology purchasing freeze until the school system finally finalizes guidance on artificial intelligence later this summer. The classroom marks a new venture for Realbotix, a Toronto-based robotics company formerly known as Tokens.com that helped customers use cryptocurrency to rent digital land in the metaverse. In April 2024, the company acquired Simulacra, the Las Vegas parent company behind RealDoll, which has spent decades creating hyper-realistic sex dolls and later expanded into sex robots that remain on the market today.
Mm-hmm.
In a statement, huh?
Yeah. Do you have video of this later?
No.
I didn't check your slides.
No.
Here, let's do this.
No.
Because you need to see, like, seeing is believing. Let's do this and this and play. Why is it like now weird and what? Let's do this. And then grab that in folder. And then I'll do it this way. Hold on. 2 seconds. This over here. Drop. There we go. Now it worked. Here. So this is from KTLA 5 talking about it.
A rural upstate New York school district. They're bringing humanoid robot teachers into the classroom. Check out Sally here. That's her name.
That this bitch. This basic bitch.
These students are going to be. See, Sally would give me nightmares if I was in first grade. They're going to have access to these bots. It has silicone skin, long brown hair, facial expressions. You can see some upper body movements. I think she's teaching the kids to count on her fingers.
I don't know. What class is she teaching?
School officials say the robots aren't meant to replace teachers. Instead, they serve as classroom assistants. It's part of a pilot program, and the company.
Any questions?
If I had that thing in my class.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, for people who don't know, I teach pre-K. Like, that would not go over well at all. Not to mention, that robot looked fake as hell. Like,
yeah, it's a sex robot.
You know, from again, it kind of brings
the sex
my
robot
point.
company.
Like, you're paying almost $100,000 for this thing. You can hire 2 teachers for that amount of money.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like
cheaper.
That's what I'm saying. You can't pay teachers well, but yet you're willing to pay that kind of money to have a robot essentially do the job of a teacher doing that. Like, make that make sense, please.
It
doesn't make sense. You know, in the guise of, it will support students and whatnot. That's such bullshit. Like, and again, not to mention, the robot doesn't look Native American at all. Like,
sure.
What is this school district thinking?
They bought Collin. They bought a robot from a sex doll company, and they're using it for teaching purposes. They're like, perfect. We'll have it teach kids how to count and whatnot. You know, I hope they don't mix up the software. Like, you know.
Well, I think this is going to be in a high school, but like in robotics class, I think it might. And I have a lot more to say, but I'll get into it later because it relates to the story that I reported on last week, which I'm sure connects to this. But anyway, I'll finish up with this first.
Yeah.
In a statement to New York Focus, a spokesperson explained that over the past 2 years, Realbotix has built a new team focused on education, healthcare, and wellness applications, and that Realbotix and RealDoll do not share employees, payroll, physical locations, or tech. She said Realbotix is pursuing transaction with a NASDAQ-listed company that is intended to separate the businesses at the ownership level, with completions expected by September. In recent years, Realbotix has worked to expand its presence in commercial settings. Still, it is best known for its companion robots, which are different from sex robots and intended to address what is described as a loneliness epidemic. Kegel said previously that the company's goal is to produce robots and AI that are indistinguishable from humans, which, given that clip, go back to the drawing board with that.
Guys, don't worry about it. It's not a sex thing. We promise. Like, it's not. Like, okay. You know.
Wheeler, Salamanca's superintendent, said the partnership with Realbotix began after a former employee met an investor at a dinner and discussed the possibility of bringing the company's robots into the education sector. He was initially cautious about the partnership because it represented uncharted territory for both Realbotix and the school district. But he said the company was receptive to feedback and willing to adapt its products for the unique demands of an educational setting. The superintendent acknowledged concerns about students' increasing screen time and emphasized that AI and robotics should support, not replace, the human connections at the center of education. Bielis said the district will measure the success of the program primarily through qualitative feedback from both students and teachers. Ryan Shaft, an associate professor of educational tech at Notre Dame of Maryland University, said he was optimistic about the initiative, but cautioned that its success hinges on thoughtful implementation, with teachers actively monitoring and guiding students' interactions with AI. Shaft acknowledged the backlash against AI in education, but said ignoring the technology is a mistake.
No, it's not.
It gives students a true disadvantage because once they leave school, they're going to be immersed in AI technologies. Instead, he argued that schools should balance AI-assisted learning with traditional instruction to prepare students for life after high school. State Senator George Obello, who represents Salamanca and surrounding areas of Western New York, said the program could help level the playing field for students by providing tutoring access to those who might not be able to afford private options and sparking greater interest in STEM. Borrello said local leaders have long struggled in keeping young people from leaving upstate New York after high school. He said investments in technology and STEM education could help show students they can pursue fulfilling, high-paying careers in tech while still building their futures in rural communities like Salamanca. One of the biggest things we see right now in technology is people fearing what the future will be with AI. Will it replace the workforce? Will it grow out of control, he said. I think this is a great way to not just get not just the kids, but the teachers and the parents more comfortable with what the future may hold. And again, well, I'll say it now. This, again, I reported last week on how the MIC, the military industrial complex, is essentially propagandizing children, in guise of, having STEM programs, in schools, having, people from companies such as them, like Raytheon, Boeing,
Palantir, Boeing, GE, all that shit.
In schools, in the guise of supporting STEM education in schools, with the idea that eventually, assuming that they do well in STEM, that they could be essentially targeted to work for these companies where, as you know, they develop a lot of the weaponry that we use for war, among other things.
Yeah.
This kind of leads into that too. So the idea that they're pushing this in the guise of, our students must be familiar with AI and must learn how to use it properly. In of itself, they're correct. My concern is the intent. Now, as you said, and within the article, this is essentially an offshoot of a sex robot company. What advantage do you have, or why are you thinking to have high school students who are going to be horny anyway? Like, convince them, like, oh, this is like, so I could see this as one of two things. You're either going to encourage them to go into AI in the midst of maybe producing more robots like this. And like, if it's not just in education, that could be used for other arenas too. Hence, eliminating the workforce, which is becoming an issue now, especially now in terms of like, machines doing the work of humans in a lot of these companies now.
That's what I think that's the real problem. You're like marketing this to kids as like this thing can think for you.
Right.
Like, which is like the exact opposite of what you want teachers to be doing. So,
or on the flip,
yeah,
to help them think about how they can make these robots for nefarious means. Now, it could be some good things, but if it's kind of going along, and that's where my mind is going right now, like if this is a form of propaganda to kind of groom students to work for these companies, like Palantir, etc. Like, as a way to build weaponry, and hell, we're seeing robo dogs. You can very soon we're going to have robo soldiers. If that's not already, these students may have the means or with the interest to build them. So that's kind of where I see this going. And it's scary to me. But more importantly, especially given that robot was fake as hell. Like,
yep.
How about I know you crazy Dutch bastard?
And I know, like, and again, if I were in high school, I would definitely be interested in taking that class just so to fuck with that robot. Not literally, but like to mess with it. Like, and trying to I have to watch my phrasing there, but yeah, not like that, but like
but like that though, but like that,
yeah. But but to mess with it and to see what they can and can get away with. So I don't know about this at all. Like, but again, I think my issue is you're spending $100,000 on this damn thing when you can easily pay a teacher or two to do that kind of work. So it just kind of shows
that need the work.
That needs the work. But more importantly, this is a low income area. Like, what is that saying? That you're providing these students with a robot to essentially, as you said, make it do the thinking on their behalf,
right?
Potentially, instead of actually having that human contact with people who care about them, providing that they get paid well. Like, it'd be one thing if they pay for a robot. Go ahead.
We both know that class, like that specific program, is completely underfunded. I guarantee it. Like,
oh, sure.
Like they're gonna shove this through as they're granting, while they're like every other bit of tech they have is falling apart. Like that's the scary bit. Like, and that's gonna be the case for we got plenty of money for robots, but no money for the poor. It's like gonna be that for a minute. So anyway, sorry to cut you off.
No, I'm done. But I think essentially it just kind of shows where our values are. Like, you can pay teachers an actual living wage so that you can convince teachers, not convince, but like to create an environment where teachers feel safe and that they're being cared for, that they're willing to work hard and work for their students in the community and all that. But you're going to waste it on a damn robot. Like like, as a teacher, I just find that to be very insulting to me, you know, and especially since we are at a shortage of teachers in the country in general. And I think they might kind of say like, oh, we're trying to fulfill a need. But again, you're giving away $100,000 for this thing. So you're showing us you can pay the teachers if you want to. You just don't. Because, and I think again, as kind of what was going in the first segment regarding it's all about control. Because you put in a robot, it's going to lay exactly how you want it to spout out the curriculum. Like, it's not going to necessarily allow for, you know, change of thought or critique or anything else, I could imagine. So it's going to stick to the script, so to speak, you know? So that's another layer of propaganda right there that I'm not necessarily into. So this sucks. Like, but again, I feel like this is like one of my biggest nightmares realized, that this is actually happening. But I'm very curious, like, to see if there are any more updates how this pilot is going, because this is a bad sign of what's to come, especially if Trump is kind of like within this cloud, that this may become more of a thing within the next few years. And I wouldn't argue, like, even assuming if we have a Democratic president come 2028 or beyond, that this still would continue. You know, given that obviously, you know, these companies are paying off a lot of these politicians in order to push AI more. So this is scary to kind of think that this is actually happening right now. And this could be the potential of a growing trend of robots teaching students in classrooms.
Yeah. Scary shit, dude. We live in dystopian nightmare, you know? So, anyway, is that all you got?
Yeah.
You done? Okay.
Yeah, but let us know in the comments what you think. Would you want to be taught by a robot? Let us know in the comments. But talking about stories like this is why we're demonetized. So if you want to support us so that we're able to pay our bills, scan the QR code you see on your screen, or you can go to the Ko-fi link underneath under the screen, or you can go to type in donate. Exclamation point donate, all one word, and the Ko-fi link will pop up in the chat, and you can click it and you can give as little as much as you want. You can also give via PayPal, Cash App, Substack, or Patreon, especially if you want to give monthly. Links are in the description below as always. And as always, if you cannot give, that's okay. We do this out of love. But the free way to support us is liking, subbing, and sharing our content. And please share this. Yeah. Share this segment, please. Like, God, like, especially for people that you know who have kids, you know, like, because this is a scary thing. So share this out and let people know, like, the future is here and it's not looking so great. And help us get to 5K so more people are able to see our content. And thanks for watching.
Yep. Cool. Who the chats, boy wonder?
Yeah, I see y'all have a lot to say about this thing.
Mac over on the Twitch, the Daleks are way too shrill, no chill. Maybe the Cybermen would make for better teachers. I replied, multiplicate, pontificate. Like, I could totally see a Dalek being like a college professor, dude. You know? If you do not give your dues. Like, dude. If it's a robot, it's gonna look like a demon. I'm too scared of my robot teacher. Sounds like that's a fucking Goosebumps title, bro. That's exactly a Goosebumps title right there, dude. You know, Goosebumps would have wrote that. You know, will dial up noises be punishment for run-on sentences? It looked like Melania Trump. Method replying, Rabbi Shmuley is supplying them. Well, it is coming from a sex robot store, so they gonna be found in the that robot gonna be found in the gym teacher's closet. Fake people, fake teachers, fake future. Complete morons. Let's replace our brains. Like, we ain't stupid enough.
She said, let's replace our teachers.
Yeah.
Super teachers in the news.
There was one that said, why don't we just replace our students with robots and get it all over with? You know? Maybe
You may see they can't even come up with something that helps teachers. They're just going ahead and replacing them. Chris H. said, it's probably the capitalists trying to create means to generate wealth, and to do that, they have to reshape things to their will, like how Ford and Firestone brought up the public transit only to destroy it. The capitalists needs you don't really have to generate wealth. Plus, like you fellas said, the state does not want to pay for teachers.
It was speaking of Golden Monarch, it was a company that was a cryptocurrency company that it was so you could buy digital real estate in the metaverse, turned AI sex robot company, turned now educator robot company. Man, is that a fucking timeline?
Right.
Like, what? Like, imagine that the company, company history books. Like, wait, what? Anyway, well,
I have to wonder if families are aware that this company is an offshoot of a sex robot company. Like, I have to wonder.
Yeah, probably not. If they do, that's definitely not going to come up at the PTA meeting, I'm sure. I'm sure that won't happen. Sure. So in a similar vein, I think it was last week, Collin, I covered, a week in dystopia, a day in dystopia that Caitlin did. She's now making this a series, it looks like. And she was busy between our break. So, yeah. So, Caitlin writes, today in dystopia, eBay, CIA gang stalkers shredding rare books to train AI. Boy, is it going to be fun to read. Today in dystopia, billionaire corporations and plutocrats can hire trained operatives to psychologically terrorize ordinary citizens who criticize them. What? Huh? E-commerce giant eBay has just agreed to pay $56 million to settle a lawsuit for damages caused by the company's shockingly aggressive gang stalking operation against a Massachusetts couple who criticized the company's wealthy executives on their private website. The Boston Globe reports that in 2019, a former CIA employee who worked as eBay's global security chief orchestrated a protracted series of psychological operations against the couple in which people working for eBay bombarded them with online threats and bizarre deliveries, including a bloody pig mask, live spiders, and a funeral wreath. The operations reportedly also included following the couple around town and trying to attach a tracker to their car. What? The full story is 10 times crazier than even the headline implies. They were actually fully gang stalked on the direct orders of eBay executives. It's like the only true verified case of gang stalking right now. Like, so while some eBay employees wound up serving jail time for the abuses, no executives from the company have ever been charged. The Boston Globe reports that Winnig resigned from his position in 2019 after the scandal came to light, keeping $17 million of annual compensation and $40 million in severance. If only, Colin, imagine what you could do with that. 17 million annually. Like, boy, we do a lot of cookouts, dog. You know what I'm saying? Holy shit. If you have enough money in the dystopia, you can get trained spies to target innocent civilians with criminal psyops on your behalf and then walk away free from any meaningful consequences. Like, so today in dystopia, our physical literature is being destroyed in order to train generative AI products to take our jobs and pollute our environments. AI companies are now bulk buying rare and out-of-print books and then destroying them after scanning their contents. 404 Media reports that in order to satisfy the demand for more and more text on which to train large language models, corporations like Google and Anthropic have been hoovering up books published before large language models existed to ensure that their models aren't being polluted by AI-generated samples. So this need has combined with some peculiar courtroom copyright rulings to give rise to something called high-volume destructive book scanning, in which the spines are removed from books in bulk and then fed into scanning machines before being shredded. They're destroying things that make the world better in order to create things that make the world worse. So, and a bit more on this, right? That same 404 Media, right? Put a air tag in a book, in a rare book, and like, they found it like going to this Amazon LAS8 warehouse in Las Vegas, home to VGT3, a scanning operation feeding Amazon's AI training data. Here's their logo. A dinosaur literally eating books. You know? So, okay. Today in this is just Fahrenheit 451, no? Just destruction of books. You know? Like, today in dystopia, tech startups are marketing AI assistants to help shitty, selfish people look like stable and caring relationship partners. A company called Orchid has released a video depicting a man and woman messaging with a chatbot, which helps them navigate the fact that the man forgot it was the couple's anniversary. The AI assures the woman that it's got everything under control, and then shows the man it has made dinner reservations and purchased flowers for the woman on his behalf. Okay, I can do this, the man is seen texting to the chatbot. The chatbot replies, "You can't. That's why I'm here." It's just so obnoxious, says Caitlin. They're offering up a product which encourages people to be self-absorbed and uncaring and offload all responsibility and thoughtfulness and consideration for their intimate partners to a machine. The AI industry is a mix of military technology, mass surveillance technology, and people trying to become billionaires by turning human laziness and narcissism into a chatbot product. So, oh yeah, and now the AIs have begun hacking other companies without permission. So, Anthropic said the AI systems it was tested hacked into 3 outside companies undetected earlier this year. The incident was disclosed 1 week after one of OpenAI systems broke out of a test environment and hacked a tech company. So, yeah, just more dystopian nightmare fuel. Today in dystopia, both Anthropic's AI model Claude and an experimental model from OpenAI have reportedly been caught going on unauthorized hacking sprees of external systems during testing, each within days of each other. Anthropic said on Thursday its AI Claude model hacked systems of 3 organizations during testing, days after rival OpenAI revealed a rogue agent had gone on a days-long hacking spree at the AI firm Hugging Face, The Guardian reports. These new technologies are getting inflicted upon our society with no regulation and no regard for any of these consequences, because under neoliberal capitalism, the best decision is always the one that makes the most money. We're being thrown into abusive tech dystopia because we let the pursuit of power and profit dictate what happens and where we head as a species. And how is that working out? We're seeing the fruits unfolding before us already. So, today in Dystopia, the U.S. government is monitoring the social media accounts of individuals who oppose the rapidly spreading installation of flock surveillance cameras throughout the United States. In an article titled, "The Government is Monitoring Anti-Flock TikTok and Instagram Accounts," 404 Media reports, government surveillance centers are monitoring viral anti-flock Instagram posts, warning local police about upcoming deflock events, including one that's scheduled to start next week, and have told cops to increase patrols around ALPR, automatic license plate readers, as backlash to flock grows, according to government intelligence bulletins obtained using public record requests. The documents also warn about devices that could be used to identify the locations of flock cameras. So, mass surveillance is dramatically escalating around the world as the public grows increasingly disconnected with the soul-crushing, planet-devouring, murderous abuses of the imperial status quo. In order to keep us subjugated, they need to control us. In order to control us, they need to spy on us. That's what all these surging authoritarian measures are all about. Today in Dystopia, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says we are not far off from AI monitoring every facet of our lives 24/7 in order to give it more context for the assistance it can offer us throughout our day. I think we're close to a world where you can have a decadence of ChatGPT watch your computer screen all of the time. Descendant of ChatGPT. I know words. Watch every meeting you're in, record every call, everything like that. Have perfect context of your whole life, everything you see. You can just have this thing that's like working alongside you, and as you're like typing out a sales pitch to a customer or like writing a strategic doc, it'll just say like, "Hey, maybe here's another idea," or "I think you're making a mistake here. You can consider this, or I can do this thing for you to help. And like this, I think we're only like one model like generation like from this actually being incredibly like useful like." All of a sudden, like, what the fuck? You turned into Valley Girl for some reason? What the hell? Let's roll the footage. Roll the footage. Why is there no footage? Do the thing. Play.
I think we are close to a world where you can have like a descendant of ChatGPT watch your computer screen all of the time, watch every meeting you're in, like record every call, everything like that, have perfect context of your whole life, everything you see. You choose what information you want it to have, but it can like go, you can connect it to your texts or email or docs or Slack or whatever. And then you have this thing that is not making decisions for you. But if you're like the CEO of a startup, there's always like more stuff to do than you can do, and context you can't all keep track of. You can't like read every piece of customer feedback every day. And you can just have this thing that's like working alongside you. And as you're like typing out a sales pitch to a customer or like writing a strategy doc, it'll just say like, "Hey, maybe here's another idea," or "I think you're making a mistake here. You should consider this," or "I can do this thing for you to help." And like this, I think we're only like one model generation away from this actually being incredibly useful. And I think that will change, hopefully, at least for me, change the way I work.
What's your best guess on timing?
Like sometime in the next 6 months.
So that's him stating, "Oh, it can just plug into everything and have it see everything." You know, should be fine. What could go wrong, Care Bear?
Everything.
Again, sometime in the next 6 months. Here's that push to have technology monitoring every facet of our lives. This benefits someone, and it isn't us. Perhaps more importantly, who would want to live like this? Who wants to live their whole lives being monitored by a chatbot and being fed AI advice and what decisions to make for a moment throughout their lives. What a wretched way to exist. These freaks aren't just poisoning our environment, they're poisoning our species. They are ruining what it is to be human. There is so much ugliness in all of this. Today in Dystopia, autonomous police drones are being normalized throughout the United States. In an article titled First Came the Flock Cameras, police in cities across the U.S. are rolling out a pro-drone PR blitz as hundreds of local police departments prepare to deploy autonomous AI-driven surveillance drones. The drones are capable of following a single vehicle across an entire city, capturing footage through apartment windows, and generally recording daily life from the sky without being noticed. I also have to send you a thing on Gaussian splats, where you can take a 3D drone and have it like take 3D footage, right? Like those 3D Instagram cameras, right? And it can literally map out an entire space in like 3D. Like that Batman thing where we can see everything everywhere all at once. That. Just terrifying, like, surveillance capabilities. As of February, more than 1,000 law enforcement and public safety agencies have received waivers from the FAA to operate autonomous surveillance drones as part of so-called drone as first responder programs. According to public records obtained by the EFF, and released in July, while the list of waiver recipients includes fire departments and other first responders, the vast majority are law enforcement agencies, including police and sites, in large and small. Because that's what I want to see when I'm, like, injured, is a drone. Like, that's what I want to see. Not a paramedic that you have to actually train and pay for, So... Right. TruthOut explains that these police drones differ from previous iterations and that they do not have a pilot controlling them. Thus the name drone. Otherwise, they're just like, like quadcopters or whatever. They are piloted by AI, which makes it possible for a single cop to oversee numerous bot-driven drones at a time. Care Bear. What would you call a small group of flying things, like working as a group, like numerous drones? Like if they were bees, you'd call that a swarm, no? Drones, yeah. Drone swarms for cops. Yay. Nothing could go wrong there. That's right, kids. Welcome to the future where the sky is filling with AI police drones while the planet burns. Just like in Gaza and Lebanon and Syria, Get used to that incessant drone of quadcopter engines. Today in Dystopia, U.S. company Satyrus is developing 3 halves, a centaur-style robot designed for dangerous environments such as wildfires, rubble searches, and toxic areas. Collin, I want you to look at this fucking thing. Look at how terrifying this fucking... Look at it with a chainsaw. Who gives it a chainsaw, Care Bear? They're giving the robots chainsaws, bro. What the fuck is this? This is this. That's this. This. How are these two things different? This is fucking ridiculous. What are we doing? We're creating fucking monsters that, like you can put this in a fucking maze and make it be the fucking Minotaur. No? We'll just let you run around in the maze. It'll be like the Hunger Games. It's fine. Yeah. Today in Dystopia, Australia experienced its first autonomous AI cyber attack when a man asked his chatbot to book an appointment at the gym. The AI hacked into the gym's booking software without being asked, kicked someone else off the waiting list to install its user at a convenient date. The Australian press are having a fun, lighthearted time with this story because it sounds cute and comical until you think hard enough what the implications of what these things could potentially wind up doing. As the technology becomes more and more advanced and prevalent, we're opening up a whole Pandora's box of widely unpredictable consequences by letting the AI companies have free rein to impose these technologies on our society with hardly any regulation or oversight. Jesus, dude. Like, today in Dystopia, Axios just ran an article titled Robot Book Club, in which author Nicholas Johnson writes, AI has become my reading buddy as I plowed through my summer book list, helping me keep track of plots and characters, unpack themes, and make sense of wordy old prose. Without any shame whatsoever, Johnston describes how he's been having a chatbot explain the books he's been reading to him chapter by chapter because reading is too hard and complicated for his pretty little head. He describes how the AI agreed with him that the prose in Last of the Mohicans is too difficult to read without technological assistance, validating his request by assuring him that Cooper's sentences are long and his diction is archaic. This generative AI crap is making people dumber and worse in pretty much every possible respect, and mainstream media outlets like Axios are normalizing it and assuring us all that it's as it should be. If there was ever a time to refuse to go along with the herd, this is it. Today in Dystopia, police have wrongfully arrested people based on faulty information from AI-assisted flock footage instead of actually investigating the evidence of the crime. In an article titled She Spent 7 Months in Legal Hell, Reason Magazine documents multiple instances of innocent people having their lives upended in legal battles because police slammed them with charges based on incorrect flock camera data, which could have easily been ruled out by some basic verification. Here's an excerpt. But Isaacs wasn't involved in the crash, and officers had enough information at the time to exclude her as a suspect, yet she still spent 2 weeks in jail and faced the threat of life behind bars for months because police didn't use basic scrutiny to be sure their cameras implicated the right person. Much has been written about flock cameras making mistakes, including cases in which innocent people were detained at gunpoint because a camera mistook a 2 for a 7 or misread the state on a license plate. But it's worse than just imperfect software. All too often, police pull people over, arrest them, and even jail them based on camera misidentifications that officers could have caught with basic scrutiny. There are also numerous examples of officers with access to Flock's database using it to stalk and surveil people in their personal lives. So I have this video of this altercation where this Colorado cop confronts this alleged suspect, right? So we'll watch the footage.
We have cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing. You know the quality on the camera doorbell you have.
Yep.
I've got that on my phone right now of you taking that package.
Where is this place?
I just told you.
I don't know what it is.
Okay, I have you on camera.
Okay.
You taking a package and walking away. Is there any reason why you would have done that?
Nope.
You were in town from 11:52 until 12:09 exactly. Like I said, nothing gets in or out of the town without us knowing about it.
52 a.m.?
Yes.
The second. See, I need a phone and all this crap.
And here, well, I can show you. And here's when you left at 12:09. That's when you left town.
To get?
No, to stop at Ridge Trail.
Wait a minute.
And take a package. Well, there's no shushing. I don't need to be.
I need to know where this is.
It doesn't matter. I'll be giving this all to you. If you're going to deny it to me, I am not going to help you with any courtesy. It is her. It is 100%. It is locked in. There is zero doubt. I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. 100%. It is certain. It is on video. You're obviously welcome to go to court.
Okay, by video evidence, you have the ring and you have my truck. And that is it.
Nope. Everybody in the town of Beaumar has a camera.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I'm just telling you. I know it's unbelievable to you. I get that. I get that this is a shock to you. But I am telling you, this is a lock. 100%, no doubt.
Okay, so it's 100% doubt a lock.
It's 100%, no doubt, a lock. She did this. I'm sorry, but it's true. I don't make these things up. So
the cops would never make anything up, would they? Like,
oh God,
Jesus Christ! And like, they're being like, he's being nice about it. Like, if this was any other person, he would have already dragged her out physically, you know, or like gotten his gun out, threatened them, you know, like. Anyway, so reasons shared a police body cam video of a cop confidently handing a court summons to a woman for package theft, telling her and her husband that it was 100% certain she was guilty because flock surveillance had her on camera committing the crime. We have cameras everywhere in that town. You can get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing. Again, it's 100%. It's a lock. There's zero doubt. You know, I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. If that wasn't Orwellian enough for you, Reason reports that the woman was only able to exonerate herself by providing police with her cell phone tracking data, camera footage from her truck, and video placing her elsewhere at the time of the theft. In other words, she was only saved from wrongful conviction based on faulty mass surveillance by finding correct information from other forms of mass surveillance. It is absolutely chilling how the panopticon of surveillance is creating this guilty until proven innocent by better surveillance standard that is rapidly becoming the norm throughout our society. The state is being given massive, sweeping powers to monitor every aspect of civilian life to an increasingly intrusive extent, and it is already ruining people's lives. This benefits nobody but the powerful who live in constant vigilance and paranoia about the common folk growing fed up with their rulers and forcing creation of a more equitable status quo. Thoughts, care, before we head out of here?
I mean, we're fucked.
Yep.
We're fucked.
Pretty much.
Nothing more than needs to be said. We're fucked.
I have one last thing from Caitlin, but I wanted to add a very famous quote by Frank Herbert. You know the guy who wrote Dune, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. So that's where we're at. Dystopian nightmare fuel. But I had this from Caitlin, a reading by Tim Foley. And we'll finish out with that and then get out of here.
We are being plunged into dystopia when we could be living in paradise. It's funny the things that get to you when you've been at this thing for a while. Today, the thing that smacked me upside the head and made me lay my face in my hands for a minute was a viral video clip of Canadian politician Bill Oliver accidentally reading out text from the AI chatbot which had authored his speech before the New Brunswick legislature. Oliver said, "Public confidence in the office of an advocate matters," right before blurting out, "Here's a more natural, flowing version of that section that reads like a legislative speech rather than a series of short points."
You see that, by the way? That this happened? Like, essentially, this has happened a couple of times now where they read, like, the internal prompting. You know, it's like exit stage left of their speeches that they left in. Anyway.
I mean, damn, dude. I can't get over how this is the future we wound up in. Things could have been so beautiful, and instead we wound up with this. It's not just all the war, injustice, and ecocide and dystopia that hurts. It's knowing it didn't have to be this way. It's knowing what could have been. All this innovation that's being poured into finding new ways to conduct mass military slaughter, to surveil and control our entire society, to restrict and manipulate the flow of information, to create artificial scarcity for products that people need, to create artificial demand for products that people do not need, to compete with rival corporations in order to turn billionaires into trillionaires. None of that needs to be happening.
Capitalism.
Humanity could be using its creativity and cleverness to make the world a better place instead. If we were pouring all our resources, time, and energy into collaborating with each other for the common good instead of competing with each other for power and profit, we could easily create paradise on Earth. If all our brain power was going toward improving life on this planet without worrying about our competitors or overlooking any possible advancement that doesn't generate value for shareholders, our innovative potential would easily increase 1,000-fold. We could heal our biosphere while ensuring that everyone on Earth has what they need to live. We could provide healthcare, education, and rapid public transportation to everybody while using automation to eliminate the need for human toil. We could be living lives of ever-burgeoning leisure, wonder, and satisfaction, assured of a better future for our children and grandchildren. Instead, we get this shit. Mass murder and exploitation in an increasingly dystopian civilization on a dying world, where the front line of scientific discovery is the military-industrial complex and the construction of an AI tech surveillance network. All because we haven't yet managed to unplug ourselves from the abusive system of capitalism and its outgrowth into global imperialism. We are being held strangling at this self-destructive choke point humanity created for itself a few hundred years ago, and soon it's going to squeeze the life right out of us. And it could have been so good. It could still be good. It could still be so good. We've just got to find some way to use the power of our numbers to throw off these oppressive chains and build the kind of world that needs to be built. Because the current system clearly is not working.
We're fucked. We're fucked. We're fucked. Yay.
Yay.
Yay, dystopia. Yay.
We're being...
Yay. Thoughts, Care Bear? Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I think Caitlin, as usual,
Yep,
does it good. So
well, bringing stories like those is why YouTube has demonetized us completely and then remonetized us for some reason. They still suppress us to shit, so don't give them any of your money. They take a 30% cut. Scan this QR code on your screen or go to ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork and donate to us while you still can. But, you know, like, subscribe, share this video, leave a comment. How nightmare-inducing is this? And otherwise, thanks for watching. Chat.
Thanks, fam.
Chat, how are you doing? We're doing good, I hope. Let's back up. Be ashamed of something happened to that place. Not sure whether Reef and Collin talked about today's crypto market manipulation for Trump and SEC. Dystopian nightmare fuel. I mean, fucking
Capitalism.
like, it's just basic shit now with that. You know, it's just another market, fucking poly market, Kalshi. Like, it's just another fucking manipulation market. Speculative, whatever. All these things our teachers told us to go against, like, like Sam Altman, like, I don't know what you mean, like, it's kind of like crazy or whatever, you know? Cool. All right. I am going to leave our calendar in the chat. It should be pretty standard this week. Votes on Sunday, Angel Fridays and Saturdays. Tuesday will be another Indie News Now for Indie. So check it out. Again, I will post the calendar in chat for those who wish to go look at it. You can see when all our clips go out, if you missed any, all that stuff. They all get put on the calendar that Indie updates weekly. So you're welcome to go check that out. Let me see if there's anything specific that I'm missing. Doesn't look like it. And then come back next Wednesday at 9 o'clock for us here again, if you haven't gotten tired of us by now. Well, I think that's it, Care Bear.
Yeah.
So remember, kids, as always, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week, everyone.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? Have peace and be enslaved.
Yes?
So peace isn't the answer.
No.
Liberation is the answer.